McRaes. The cars flagged away from the Glasgow Garden Festival site. 14th attempt for McRaes. Llewellyn out to make it 2 in a row. Tactics for him?
Flat out from the word go. You've got to, in this game, you know, if you hold back at all, it may pay off in the end, you know, the top runners might fall out, but the Group A cars now are getting more reliable, and you know, you've really got to go from the word go.
Llewellyn in the big Audi 200 Quattro looking for his first win of the season after a roll cost him victory in the last round, the Welsh. McRaes with Rob Arthur alongside him leading the Ford Challenge in the Sierra Cosworth. Dust always a feature of the Scottish, and this year it was worse than ever. Another strong challenger, Didier Auriol from France, double French champion and winner of this year's World Championship Corsica Rally. Another feature of this year's Scottish, the introduction of pace notes, the first time on a British Forest event. Inside the Mitsubishi Starion, Penty Auricola behind the wheel, Ronan McNamee on the notes.
Suddenly left 5. Into right 3.
You can see the extent of the dust problem here as the cars set out on a first day loop of the southern Scottish forests. Penty Auricola struggling in the dust cloud thrown up by a slower car in front and being hampered as a result.
Handbrake. 50.
Malcolm Wilson, a former Scottish Rally winner, starting superbly in the Vauxhall Astra GTE. Wilson into second behind McRaes in the opening stages, leading many of the more powerful cars. Mark Lovell, the 1986 champion, not doing a full championship season in 1988. Lovell running in the thick of the dust. As indeed was Russell Brooks, making his first championship appearance, not in the Opel Manta, his familiar car of recent seasons, but in a Ford Sierra Cosworth, and like so many of the rest of the field, having to contend with early puncture problems. Louise Aitken-Walker on familiar ground in the Peugeot 205. Teammate Callie Grundle in the Peugeot 309. Jimmy McRaes storming into the lead and sending the dust and rocks flying as he takes fastest time on the first 7 stages. Missing at this point, David Llewellyn stuck in the forest with a fuel pump problem, so into second on his first visit to the Scottish forests, Didier Auriol. Penty Auricola was doing his best to keep up the pressure.
And left 3, into left 2, suddenly right 4, 50. Left 3, 50, long crest, right 4, into left 5, and left 4, suddenly right 6, into left 3, suddenly right 3, long, tightens little, into left 3, into right 4, 50, left 4 into left 6. Left 6, 100. Right 2, suddenly left 4. Suddenly right 5. Suddenly left 6. Suddenly right 4. Open.
Penty, unhappy with the ride height on the Mitsubishi, was also delayed by gearbox problems, so his challenge hadn't really materialised yet. The Peugeot challenge was just about halved. Louise Aitken-Walker would crash out after only 3 stages. Malcolm Wilson still running superbly, holding on to a top 5 place at the end of 5 stages. Right behind him and getting more and more used to the Ford Sierra Cosworth, Russell Brooks. Phil Collins, a strong finisher on the circuit of Ireland, was finding the gravel a different prospect. He's lying 7th. And the remains of the Peugeot effort, Callie Grundle in the 309 GTI. John Hawkland's Skoda set for its usual class battle with the Novas, and a setback already as he loses 4 minutes with a puncture. But not as big a setback as that for Llewellyn. His fuel pump problem cost him 11 minutes.
you know, 11 minutes is a lifetime in this game. And we've had a puncture since as well, so Scotland hasn't been too kind to us, really. In fact, it was the fuel pumps after. I mean, I'd just about given up and thought, well, I can't find it. And I just had one sort of last check over in the boot, the pumps are in the boot, and found a wire had actually broken on a connection, and fixed it, and off we went.
Everyone had their problems early on, but McRae, leading from Penty Auricola and Didier Auriol at Castle Douglas, had only minor irritations to report.
Yes, we had a bit of a misfire in that stage, but I think it was just the heat and the fuel vaporisation. When we put it onto the other pump, the cooler fuel pump, it was all right. I think Didier was going very well. He went off the road for about half a minute in A Forest, but he's still there or thereabout. Penty's obviously about the same pace.
McRae in the clear air of Carrochtree Forest, sending out a great rooster trail of dust, still troubled by that misfire, but still leading. Didier Auriol had set his second fastest time of the day on stage 10, but here on 12 was having problems, losing both third gear and his intercom to co-driver Bernard Ocelli. Penty Auricola in third, only 12 seconds behind Auriol, but slowing and coming under threat from both Malcolm Wilson and Russell Brooks. Wilson had ended McRae's storming start by taking fastest time on stage 8, the Dalbeattie stage. Russell Brooks, for his part, was quickest at Carrochtree, fourth overall here at Glen Gap, but the majority of the top 10 would move up a place after Auriol suffered a 3-minute delay with a puncture. Phil Collins in his Sierra Cosworth was 6th at the end of the day, but behind the similar car of Mark Lovell. Once again leading the Group N contest for showroom category cars, the consistent Wyndaf Evans. And another McRae prominent, Jimmy's son Colin, just outside the top 10 and heading the runners in the 1300cc class. That put him ahead of the Skoda of John Haugland. Problems at the back? Well, this is Vince Wetton using the ricochet approach at the sharp left-hander, a lot more productive than the straight-on approach of Warren Hunt. As ever, willing hands would appear from the forest, and Warren Hunt would be on his way before the dust has settled. Those out of it, though, on day one, David Llewellyn still running at the back of the field, but Louise Aitken-Walker is now out and joined by Peugeot teammate Callie Grundle, who retired with a blown head gasket. So end of day one, Jimmy McRae led from Malcolm Wilson, Penty Auricola third, Russell Brooks fourth. So into day two and the anti-clockwise loop of stages north. McRae leading Wilson and Auricola in the clear air at the front of the field. De Villa Forest was among the really testing forest stages of the day, and it saw McRae fastest again. Malcolm Wilson was pushing him hardest, no reverse gear, the main problem on Wilson's Astra GTE. Driving like this, there was no prospect of reverse being required. Penty Auricola third placed in the Mitsubishi Starion.
Right 4, suddenly left 4 long, and junction left 7. Junction left 7. 50, left 6 stone inside, into junction left 7.
Auricola about to hit gearbox problems. There'd be a gearbox failure straight after this stage, requiring a complete rebuild on the earliest possible road section. Russell Brooks fourth, and it was back down the field that the dust was providing a real visibility problem, even with the organisers running some stages at 2-minute intervals. Mark Lovell fifth. Phil Collins, 6th. And with Wyndaf Evans 7th, Ford Sierra Cosworths were in 5 of the first 8 places. 5 Fords and 2 McRaes, because Colin McRae in his Nova was hanging on to his 8th position in magnificent style. And so to the Knockhill race circuit, which you may remember was the focus of the Jimmy McRae-David Llewellyn battle last year. Well, this year, the organisers, keen to avoid a repeat of last year's stock car racing, have erected bollards between the lanes. Armco would have been more appropriate. Malcolm Wilson on the outside has nudged a couple of bollards into the path of McRae on the inside. But in general, everyone behaves at this popular spectator stage. Penty Auricola with the gearbox sorted on the Mitsubishi, trying to claw back time from second place Malcolm Wilson. Here's Wilson locking the brakes on his Astra. He's in pursuit of McRae. Not this McRae, but Colin McRae, spectacular and composed at the wheel of the Nova, hangs on to 8th place at Knockhill. Trailing in the wake of the McRaes at this point, a man of World Championship class. Didier Auriol clawing his way back up the field, 9th at this point, and aided by setting a fastest time at Knockhill. But Auriol, certainly a pre-event threat to the leader Jimmy McRae, was no threat now. McRae over 6 minutes ahead of Auriol and over 2 minutes ahead of his nearest challenger, Malcolm Wilson. Here's Wilson struggling for tyre choice on the punishing terrain, and the task for Wilson was to try and hold Russell Brooks at bay, who was charging in 3rd. Brooks with Neil Wilson alongside him in the Ford Sierra Cosworth. We go on board with Auricola and McNamee in the 4th place Mitsubishi Starion.
And crest left 5 into right 4.
Auricola 4th, but losing ground. He's had further puncture problems and now feels that the Mitsubishi is down on power.
Crest right 3 and right 4, suddenly left 5, suddenly right 5. And right 4, suddenly left 7, 50, crest right 2 inside, into left 3, 110, left 2 long, into crest right 4 inside.
Mark Lovell in 5th place has suffered a whole string of niggling problems, and with limited time to prepare for the event, he's now on stages that he hasn't been able to practice, so no reliable pace notes. Phil Collins 6th, 30 seconds behind Lovell, not making a great deal of impression, and now he's being harried by Didier Auriol. The Frenchman is past Colin McRae and Wyndaf Evans into 7th place. He set a total of 6 fastest times, and that on his first visit to the Scottish forests. Colin McRae still in the top 10, but now 9th with Auriol past him. The teams are often cocooned in their own little world, unaware of the shape of the overall contest. For this, they rely on the Rally Information Service, run by Brian and Liz Patterson, and it's giving Colin McRae only good news.
We seem to be doing quite well according to this. I hope it's correct. Looking through the entry list at the start, there was such a good entry with all the Finnish and the Swedish junior teams. We never thought we'd be this high up.
His father, Jimmy McRae, knows all about his own position into the final day and still in the lead. His 14th attempt at the Scottish Rally, 6 times second. Now he's listening for all the telltale noises from the car that could yet deprive him of the long-awaited Scottish win. But the problems would never materialise. Jimmy McRae is on his way to victory at last. Malcolm Wilson, a spirited second, but only just. His engine, showing signs of the dust that was getting everywhere, was on the point of giving up the ghost. Russell Brooks also only just survived after hitting a rock. He shattered a sump in his Ford Sierra Cosworth, but came home third. His talents sorely missed from the championship this year. Pentti Aurikkala nursing home a Mitsubishi that had recurrent gearbox problems, but Aurikkala and McNamee fourth and keeping a strong hold on the championship.
Crest, right 1, 100, right 3, 50, jump, right 1 minus, 100, junction, left 7, hairpin, 200, 200 straight.
Fifth place, Phil Collins. He had been pressured by Oriol, but the Frenchman had gone off the stage in the night in one of the few places that there weren't any spectators to get him back. So, a good result for Collins. And sixth place, Mark Lovell. No concerted Open Championship programme for him, but he's the newly crowned Dutch champion, and this event for him was followed by success on the Donegal Rally. Seventh, and another success in Group N, Gwyndaf Evans in his Ford Sierra Cosworth. Forcing his way late into 8th place, Sweden's Mats Jonsson in a Cadet GSI. But coming in 9th and winning his up to 1300cc class, Colin McRae in the Vauxhall Nova. Great day for the McRaes. Colin McRae showing he's got all the potential to match his father's long-awaited Scottish victory. So McRae wins his home event after 14 attempts from Malcolm Wilson in second, Russell Brooks third, and championship leader Aurikkala fourth. Aurikkala's lead, 16 points over McRae, 2 rounds left, the next being in Ulster in a little over a month. But for Jimmy McRae, one of the empty chapters in his illustrious career has now been completed.